Today, we're going to solve one of the biggest and honestly weirdest mysteries in PC building. Why is it that when you go to buy a CPU, you really only see two names, but for GPUs, there are dozens? Let's get into it.
Okay, so picture this. You're shopping for parts for your new build. You look at CPUs, and your choice is pretty simple, right? It's either Intel or AMD. But then you click over to graphics cards, and it's just this explosion of brands. You've got MSI, Gigabyte, ASUS, and a bunch more, all selling what looks like the same NVIDIA or AMD chip. So, what is actually going on here?
All right, to understand this, let's start with the simple side of the equation. We're talking about the world of CPUs.
In the CPU market, it really is a tale of two giants, Intel and AMD. And the key thing to know about them? They do everything. Seriously, they control the whole shebang, from the initial design all the way to the final product that you put in your computer.
Think about it. They design the architecture, they handle the incredibly complex manufacturing process, and then they sell that finished processor directly. That is exactly why you're never, ever going to see an MSI Core i9 or an ASUS Ryzen 7. There's just no other company involved. So, at the end of the day, a CPU is a totally standardized product. You know, what you see is what you get. It has a specific size, its cooling needs are predictable, and its performance is consistent. It's basically a plug-and-play part, and there's really no room for anyone else to come in and make changes. Okay, now let's just completely flip the script and dive into the GPU world, because over here, all those simple rules get thrown right out the window. It is a completely different game. And here is the absolute fundamental difference. Big names like NVIDIA and AMD, they often only design the core technology, that little piece of silicon that is the actual GPU chip. They usually don't build the entire card that you end up buying. So who builds the rest of it? Well, say hello to the AIB partners. That stands for Add-in Board Partners. These are the companies you know and recognize, like MSI, Gigabyte, and ASUS. Their whole business is buying those core chips from NVIDIA and AMD, and then building the complete graphics card around them. So the process is kind of like a three-step dance. First, NVIDIA or AMD designs a brand new GPU chip, let's say an RTX 4080. Step 2, partners like ASUS and MSI buy a ton of these chips in bulk. And then finally, those partners design and build the entire graphics card. Everything from the circuit board to the fans, all centered around that core chip.
And this right here, this is where all that variety comes from. These AIB partners are all competing with each other. They try to one-up each other by customizing crucial parts of the card. Things like way better cooling systems with bigger fans and beefier heat sinks, more robust power delivery for stability, and even factory overclocking to squeeze out a little extra speed. And of course, they all have their own unique visual designs and, all the RGB lighting. That's why 10 different RTX 4080s can all look, feel, and even perform a bit differently.
So okay, that's the what of the situation. But what about the why? Why is there such a massive difference in the business models? Well, it all comes down to a really, really great analogy: the engine versus the car.
I mean, just look at the physical differences. A CPU is pretty compact, right? The heat it generates is manageable with pretty standard coolers. A GPU, on the other hand, is a massive, power-hungry beast that generates an enormous amount of heat. A simple one-size-fits-all cooler just is not going to cut it.
And this brings us to that core idea. A CPU is like an engine. It's a standard, powerful part that you just drop into place. The GPU chip is also an engine, but it's so incredibly powerful and hot that it needs an entire car built around it just to function properly. The chassis, the custom cooling system, the power delivery, everything.
And it makes perfect sense when you think about it that way, right? You don't walk into a store and buy a custom-cooled car engine off the shelf, but you absolutely choose a specific car based on its cooling, its design, and all its performance features. Well, that is exactly what you're doing when you choose between an MSI graphics card and a Gigabyte one.
So we've basically unraveled the whole mystery. But what does all of this actually mean for you when you're trying to buy these things?
Okay, let's put this all in a nutshell. When you buy a CPU, it's simple. It comes directly from Intel or AMD. It's one company, one product. When you buy a GPU, it's a partnership. You're getting that core chip from NVIDIA or AMD, but the final card, that's built and customized by a partner like MSI or Gigabyte.
So here's the big takeaway. When you're deciding which RTX 4070 to buy, you're not just picking the NVIDIA chip, you are picking the builder. You are choosing their cooling design, their power components, their customer service, and their overall build quality.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. The next time you find yourself staring at a wall of a dozen different boxes that all say RTX 490 on them, just remember that analogy. Yeah, the engine inside is the same. The real question you should be asking yourself is, who are you trusting to build your car?